Yeah, I'm Tom Lupfer. I'm president of Lupfer Landscaping, and I live in Riverside, Illinois. I found this project. It was an interesting story. A colleague of mine, Ed Ballou, serves on a committee with me at my trade association, and he was telling this great story about going over to Africa. And I'm like, I want to go. And he goes, okay, you can.
Our journey into God's transform. The next 2 hours, shall we pray? Father in heaven, we are grateful unto you for the gift of today.
The situation in Ghana is pretty stable. It actually does not have much civil strife. They haven't had the military coups, none of the tribal warfare. It's an ex-British colony, so English is the national language. You can speak with most anyone there. It's a very Christian community. It's in the western part of Africa.
We call Ghana the center of the world because it's the only country that is so close to the equator and also on the Greenwich Meridian. So we joke that this is a gateway to the world.
Hot, really hot, but it's dry. You can't really say desert, I guess. There is green. People surviving day to day out here in the bush.
There's Accra, which is the capital city, and then there's the towns and along the roads and that kind of part of the country. But then out in the bush is off the beaten path. No roads to go there. Life there hasn't changed for hundreds, thousands of years. They're still building mud huts. They're still drinking water from puddles. These kids have no medical care. They've never seen a doctor. They have one change of clothes. So the city, there's fresh drinking water. But out in the bush, there is no such thing. There is a lot of chaos. It might not be strife, it might not be war. The chaos on the streets and governmental structure is not nearly as strong over there as it is here.
Most of the people in Ghana work in agriculture. In terms of occupation, agriculture takes the most. But in terms of contribution to GDP, the service sector contributes the highest. In terms of poverty, about half of the crop farmers are below the poverty line. They are considered to be poor.
The lack of adequate financial resources for infrastructure development has been a major obstacle in the development agenda of Ghana. To complement government efforts, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, have worked with individuals and institutions over the years to address the infrastructure gap. One such collaboration is the partnership between International Needs Ghana, International Needs USA, and Tom Lupfer. One man, Tom Lupfer, recognized the situation and decided to help make a difference. Tom's choice, the choice of one man, resulted in his entire community getting involved and helping him fund a trip to Ghana. This is not the story of Tom Lupfer, but rather the story of how one man motivated his community and changed the lives of others in need. One man, one drop, created an ocean, which made all the difference.
So the trip started out in Accra, which is the capital of Ghana. We flew in there and we got loaded up, got all our bags onto the bus and drove quite a ways down to Adidome, which is where the International Needs Network has their compound. The compound itself was pretty nice by Ghanaian standards. There were bathrooms with tiles. hot meals and the like. Didn't always have running water. We didn't always have electricity. After a day of working really hard in the field, sometimes you didn't know if you're going to get your shower or not. But at least there was running water. At least there was a bucket full of water in Adidome. We stayed at the compound. These women would be marching every morning to martial music. It's great. Red dresses or the blue dresses, depending on what track they were on, how long they were going to be there. And this is where IN Network does a lot of their outreach to at-risk women in the Tricosi, the former sex slaves. They have dormitories and they teach them a skill. So these women will either come from the bush or bad domestic situations, women that are vulnerable. They're teaching these women skills so they can then survive in the economy. They are learning how to do hair, so they're braiding hair. They're painting beads for sandals. They're making soaps. They're printing fabrics. So there's 4 or 5 different tracks. Baking that they're teaching these women. They give them a skill, and then they give them some kind of micro loan. They set them up in business. So they really are rescuing these women and giving them a skill, and then getting them into the local economy with something that they can then support themselves. If you give them the power of self-reliance and self-sufficiency, you really lift them up out of the mire. So that was great to see.
These are the dormitories.
Baking or domestic catering. This is the catering department. Come in, please. Come in, please. This is the catering department where they are taught how to do various cookies and mini meals so that when they live here, they can produce it themselves for snacks. Now this is the facilitator, so she can take over. So they are learning how to do this here. You've already prepared popcorn. You are preparing popcorn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now this is the soap department.
Smells lovely.
Different types of soap. So this is the facilitator. So I hand you over to him.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome. Here we produce different types of soap. Ranging from the liquid soap, powder soap, and then cake soap. So it's being packaged now. Finish placing there. After that, it will get dried in the
Settle down.
in a container. As it solidifies, that's the end of it. So it can be used on the hair.
There are different stages of making it. Carpenters make it. Depending on what you want, they make it for. So
That's really
as you
handmade.
see, they are making nice the design.
And we always heard singing coming from their dormitories. So when they got off and were back after their long day, they all just started singing. It was great. It was neat. It was great to be there in the morning on our way out, seeing these women do their marches and preparing for the day and coming back. There was a certain feel to the place that it was a magical place. There was something going on there. You could tell it. There's certain places in the world where you feel that energy, and this was one of them. These women, you could tell change was coming. You could tell they knew their lives were changing for the better, and that tour through that we had was great. And then afterwards we went to the store to see their goods, and we bought them out. So I'll take all the soap that's left, and then we brought that soap out to Canuli and gave it to the residents in Canuli. So it was one of those. It was a great experience. So Adidome is in the Volta region of Ghana, Ghana has several distinct regions. So there's lots of natural wealth and beauty. The Volta region is one area, and it's the most underdeveloped in Ghana, and it's where the most need is. Ghana and Benin and this area was part of a larger kingdom before the colonial era. So the Volta region has ethnic ties to areas in Togo and Benin. So their heritage doesn't recognize the international boundary. And that was Adidome. So that's a town that still has some running water, some utility. The development is there. There are roads. There may be a street light every 5 blocks, but at least there's still a street light. We would go from there every morning out to Canuli, which is the village where we were working. And Canuli is not a town, it is out in the bush. It is truly an African village. There is no development. There is no electricity, no plumbing, no running water.
Tipping it.
Nice. There's the church.
Yep.
We had good video of the service yesterday.
Oh, good.
There's the junior high school. There's the grade school. So the trip from Adidome to Canuli took about an hour. It was maybe 10 miles at the most. It was over rutted roads that it had rained, so we couldn't go on the roads. So we would have a scout walking in front of us with a stick, poking the ground to see where it was sturdy enough for us to go on this big bus. We spent more time off-road than on-road. It was unbelievable. I discovered that riding with our guide was a great way to go, because the big bus would get you really motion sickness, and his little pickup would bounce on along. So I requested that ride a lot near the end. It was the craziest trip.
International Needs Network and Aquascapes Foundation teamed up to organize the trip of a lifetime, a trip that would change lives forever. Tom and 16 other volunteers traveled to the village of Canuli in Ghana, West Africa. The project mission? To save the people of Canuli by giving them clean, safe drinking water.
We're here. We're in Canoli. We can't wait. It's going to be amazing. Hello. How are you?
There were 16 Aquascape team members. That's what we called it. Aquascape was the company that organized the whole trip. Those 16 were like me. They were like contractors from around the country that were in the landscaping industry and had some specialization in this stormwater management part of it. A lot of my business is managing stormwater. I'm a sustainable company, so managing your stormwater is really important to me. So that made up the bulk of the group.
Canuli is a village with about 700 people, but with other villages close by Kinuli is basically a farming community. People settle there to farm, and it's located in the flat plains of the Volta River.
The village of Kinuli was made up of 7 different family units that had their own little village. And then another family unit would be 300, 400, 500 yards over here. Another village, maybe 10, 15 huts. It was what would make up a family unit. It was extended family. It was grandmas and uncles and aunts and that kind of thing.
That can be flooded and it can be dangerous and difficult. So you can go this way and rejoin the other route. This is interesting. This is another house. Many people migrate from the community to the Volta Lake communities to fish. And they make some money and come back and build in the communities. So when we come here and say, come on, don't let the children go into fishing. What business are you talking about? The nicest buildings in town are built by those people. What do you mean by that?
No, right? They have screens on the windows.
Yes.
Radios.
That makes the work difficult. Because this area used to be the flat plain of the Volta River near Adidome. It floods into this place. But when the dam was constructed in the 1960s, in 1960 into 61, the chemistry of the water changed because it started moving slowly. So the livelihood was going down. These are fishermen, fisher folks. So they started migrating to the lake community. It's a man-made lake into the forest, who know nothing about fishing. So there was great opportunity. Then they went there from all over the country and they started overfishing over time. So now they cannot take adults to do the fishing. They come for children. Second generation, third generation started trafficking children. And it's a problem International News has dealt with in this area for many years. And we've got many of them come back to school. Yeah, so those people, some of them put up this nice traffic.
Oh yeah, I've just walked around and held hands with the kids and you know walked through and seen where they live and what they do, and it's a real treat to see other parts of the world and you know just know what we've got and how much we take for granted at home. It really makes you want to share more. Just a simple way of life, you know. We got so much stuff. We got so much stuff more than what we need, and you really see. You know, the funny thing is there's so much going on in our world that we're just busy. We miss a lot of the basic things, you know. And I see a general thing that I see across the board with people here is they're happy.
Is this your house? Is this your house? Brother, sister, brother? How many? 4. I count 5.
Yes.
He's not yours?
Yes.
So these are some of the children. This is their home.
This is a home. This is their living room. There's the bedroom. This is the bathroom, if you can believe it. And here's the kitchen. Stove, shelf, supplies, hairbrush.
One major problem with Kanule has to do with water. The community has no access to potable water.
Clean water in all over the country. There are only few parts of the country, especially the bigger cities, that we have clean drinking water. But in the rural areas, we don't have good drinking water.
I was there the week before in that same community, and the doctors that we were with the medical team and the doctors and nurses, we all saw things that indicate lack of clean water.
This community had up to 80% of its disease caused by their drinking water supply. 80%. It was killing them. Literally, the water they were drinking was killing them. They had tried boreholes, which is we dig a huge well, they came up dry. They tried filtration systems. They weren't tenable. They didn't last long. They tried everything to get this community water, and it all failed. And the last medical trip that went through, when they saw the people in this community, they said, we can solve their wounds, we can help them, but nothing is going to save these people unless they get fresh drinking water. So the medical team basically said, send us to healthier places because our work here will help, but they're going to die.
The International Needs Ghana staff says when they hand you a bottle of water, water is life. And so I would say that without being any kind of dramatic, that water is life. Water means clean water, means health, it means cooking and the ability to produce food for families, it means being able to function every day. Water is life.
Community has no access to potable water. They depend on the marshland for their water needs for drinking, cooking, and washing. When we went there, we realized their water looked very much like coffee.
All right, well, here we are. We're heading out to their current drinking source. I'll let you know. I'll check back in. I don't have enough battery life to get us the whole way there.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the community depends on the marshland for their water needs. So there's a pool of water within the marshland where they go and draw their water. They scoop it with calabashes into bowls and carry it to the community. It's a little over a kilometer, or about 2 kilometers from the village, and that's where they draw the water. During the dry season, it dries off and they have to walk further into the deep to get water. It's used both by cattle and human for drinking. So yesterday, as we went there, you saw the cattle poo on the floor, on the ground, and that's what the human beings also depend on for their drinking needs.
Okay, so still walking. 10 minutes later. Beautiful open country. Not much here, except heat. The thing the video won't show you is the heat. Check back in. Okay, so we're getting close to the water right here. Right up here is our first source. But it looks like the animals tread all over it. So this is their water hole. Dry season, it's not even wet mud. Unbelievable.
Yeah, me too.
But I hear they found water up here. Look at this. Water. So we're used to bottled water, nice and clean. But watch what happens when I fill it up. This is what they're drinking.
Oh yeah, yeah. You don't even want to go there. You know, you think it's going to be bad, and you envision this little creek that they're going to somewhere, dipping their buckets to get their water from, and you walk out there and it's a puddle where the cows drank. You know, it's just not. It's worse than what you could imagine. It was hoof prints with water in them.
I know myself and several others expected there was a river that we would end up at. There's no river, there's a marsh. And we had to walk quite a bit into the marsh before we even saw any standing water. And then when our guide stopped us at some small puddles, he said, this is where we get the water. We take a saucer and we scoop it into our containers and we bring this water. And this water is literally a mud puddle. It's a mud puddle.
So International Needs Ghana went about trying to figure out a way to get them drinking water. And that's when they came into contact with Aquascapes. The project started months and months before we got there with the village excavating the hole, which again, the whole concept was really bring the resources to the community. So they hired local people from the village to dig the hole, which is amazing. They hand dug. I mean, this isn't like soil they're digging. It was like hard pan clay type of soil. We showed up and there's a big hole and they're in there trying to chip it out. First couple days we were struggling to get stuff done, and morale, you could feel it was starting to ebb. I mean, people were struggling. It was hot, and a couple of us on the team got heat stroke. And but what had happened, we start hearing these murmurs. The women are coming. Like, huh? Don't worry, the women are on their way.
The women would come out of the field. They wouldn't be here when we got here in the morning. They're off in the fields. And then they would show up midday and jump right in. No lunch, nothing to eat since the morning. They would jump right in and start moving that heavy sand, heavy dirt.
And there must have been 15 of them that showed up. And they sat there and worked harder, more consistently than any workforce I've ever seen. They would walk with 5-gallon buckets of dirt on their head, back and forth for hours and hours without a rest. And they had babies on their backs. I mean, they had the baby strapped in. It was amazing.
It's backbreaking work. Just, I was sweating, they were sweating, and we're doing the same work. And they never complain. They actually, you have to encourage them to go take a break. As we found the lines getting shorter, for example, we're getting closer to where we're dumping the dirt. We don't need as many people. You have to pretty much physically say, go take a break. Unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
So the first day we spent leveling the hole and getting everything prepped and seeing what we had. And it was perfect and ready for us to put in the majority of the system the next day. But then that night it rains, biblical rains coming down in sheets. And we show up the next morning and the hole has 2 feet of water in it. Bucket brigades were very popular. And finally the pump shows up and we repair all that damage. So that was the next day. The third day is when we put in the liners and the blocks and the system and the piping. And what we were doing is we're getting all the rainwater off the schools and the church's gutter system. So we had to capture that and pipe it to the big 25,000 gallon cistern. At the same time, we were building a house to house the sanitation system. And it was locked, so no vandalism or no one could steal it. Solar powered, so we had to run all the solar panels and batteries and the wires and the filtration, the piping, the collection. It's really complicated, but we were with a great crew. So people who went on the trip really knew what they were doing. So even though we ran into a lot of adversity while putting it in, I never had a question whether it would succeed or not. So then the fourth day was buttoning up the cistern and the piping and starting to backfill the hole, which was done by hand, and finishing up the sanitation part of it. And then the 5th day was we were done. Details, water started coming in, and it was functional and operational. So all in all, it was a 5-day process.
They've got no water here, and so what we've done is we've had to capture that water and put it into a rainwater harvest system where they will be able to utilize that water as drinking water. So it starts out at our buildings here. Water is going to come down on the roof. It's going to be caught by the gutter system. The water will go down into the downspout filters, which is a 300 micron filter, which will hopefully take out most of the sediment and debris that comes from dust and debris floating around in the air. From there, it will go through a much larger pipe, and it's going to continue its way down into our second containment catch basin here. Underneath this catch basin is a 22,000 gallon tank. In that 22,000 gallon tank, there are what we call matrix boxes. Matrix boxes are designed to hold 97% volume of water. We wrap that around with a rubber liner so that nothing can get in other than the parts that we want to get in there. From there, on our secondary pump vault, we have a 12 volt solar powered pump that will pump the water out of the system into a very small building we have over there. In that small building, we have another set of UV lights that the water will pass through and kill all the bacteria and all the harmful things that come from the water. It'll also go through some other micron filters to take out whatever is left of the fine sediment. From there, it's going to get pumped into the black plastic tank, and from there they will be able to access good, clean drinking water.
Hey, I'm Tim. I helped do the sanitation side and disinfection side of this project. So what happens is the water comes from underground to the aqua block system where all the rain is collected, and then we use a solar pump that pumps up from the rain collection system into this room. And into this room we have a few levels of filtration and sanitation. We go through a couple filtration and then we kill all bacteria with this UV device. Everything is automatic and it runs on solar power, and we're going to produce enough water that they have enough water every day.
On the 5th day, the project was completed, and it was time for a celebration.
What the celebration was is they didn't have anything to give us. You know, they don't have anything to show their appreciation. So they gave us joy and love and voice and dance.
This day was a day filled with so much faith, so much joy, and so much love. The people of Canuli were saved. Finally, clean drinking water. They can abandon the marshland, and they can abandon all the disease that goes with it, thanks to the Aquascape team. But the Aquascape team was just the tip of the iceberg. The Aquascape team project was more than just the result of 16 individual volunteers, 16 drops, coming together to achieve a goal. This was the result and will forever serve as an example of teamwork and what can be accomplished if we as a people, regardless of race, gender, religion, or ethnicity, unite in love and care for one another.
So strong and so mighty, there's nothing that he cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing that he cannot do.
And so it remains. Canuli would have safe water to drink. Beyond the 16 Aquascape team members, there were thousands of generous people all over the world that helped this project happen. Without these generous donations, Canuli would still be drinking disease-filled water that looked like coffee.
You know, this project is literally a life-saving project. 70 to 80% of all sickness within this very community comes from only one thing, and that is from unclean water, unsafe water. So we're going to begin to see a change happen from the health side, from the children's side, from the whole community. It's just an unbelievable thing that's going to begin starting today that we've turned on the water system. You know, when we came to this community, we could not have done it ourselves or one individual person. One individual person would have been able to come and just look at it and maybe do an assessment. But coming together as individuals, each of us from our different backgrounds, our different education, our different skill sets, we formed a team. We did not only form a team with ourselves, but we began to form a team within the community that we began to work with. And what that was able to do was show the leadership of team building, show the leadership of how to work together, and it was a phenomenal thing to see that. So this project is a complete result that if you work together, you will do way greater things, unbelievable things, life-transforming things that will affect these people.
Yeah, find it in your heart to give. You know, you can give more than you think. That's what I know. If you can't come, if you can't be one of the strong backs that's doing the work, and you can't travel to the other side of the planet to help people in need, then, you know, reach in your pocket and give something for the people who can. You know, everybody can give something. It's not one person that makes this happen. It's an effort across the board from the start to the finish line.
What we accomplished as a team, no way could one person ever do that. And if you multiply that, if we could all even just do something, just a little something, look up at a kid's face who's looking up at you, like, you know, think about if that's your child, you know, do something.
You know, individually we are one drop, but together we are an ocean. And this project and the way the people came together of it really proves that. Yeah, I was just one guy going over to Africa to help out with this project. And then I get 50 clients involved. And then there's kids involved and Girl Scout troops and charitable organizations, and hundreds of people got involved just because of that one person who said, hey, I'm going to go to Africa. It really was a symbol of this trip for me. It wasn't me anymore. I was the one lugging all that stuff over for everyone behind me, you know. I was just the tip of the spear, you know. The real effort was the 350 people who made it possible.
Tom's decision to go to Ghana resulted in his community backing him up and helping him fund his trip, bring school supplies and toys for the children, and giving the entire village a meal of chicken and rice, their very first meal of such abundant, nutritious value. This was Tom's Ocean, and what an impact it made.
International Needs is, in the U.S., we are completely dependent on the charity of other people. We depend on generosity, we depend on people seeing the need, and all we do is provide a link between what we know are legitimate, real needs that are verifiable, and we provide a vehicle to have funds and interest, and we have great monitoring and all of that between the different countries that we work in. So we have high accountability, we have a 4-star Charity Navigator rating, and we're committed to making sure that if someone in the United States wants to help us put in clean water, we will help them find a place, legitimate need, and match that up and make it happen.
Child sponsorship really works, because I was a sponsored child when I joined the International Needs School. Definitely one person can do a lot, because what has changed my life right now is $1 a day that my sponsor sent to International Needs, and that is what has made me who I am today. I mean, that is what has helped me to have a degree in sociology today that I'm using, and I'm even supporting my family out of that now, working with International Needs. So yes, maybe you cannot come all the way to Ghana to maybe be part of a team that would maybe construct something or bring water well to a community or anything, but your $1 a day that you can send to International Needs can help change a life to become like who I am today.
So what will you do? Will you help transform lives? Will you help save lives? The decision is yours, and this is proof that one decision from one person, one drop, can create an ocean and touch the lives of others.